Ulrich from my Space Wolves list. He heals and he gives rerolls and leadership buffs, so he's pretty good all around. He's not that expensive. He's going to go well with my wolf, and so I'm putting Mephiston Red on the cape and Steel Legion Drab for the fur. I've got Retributor Gold for the weapons and the medallion, and the gold trim is going to be Balthazar Gold, so more bronzy, deeper gold. Yeah, that's what I've got done so far. And I've got Averland Sunset for these yellow sort of badges that he has, and for his thing at the top. So, amazingly detailed model. Really, really cool. Super fun to paint. Just started, so we'll carry on with that. But what an amazing model that this guy is. All right, base coats are almost done on Ulrich. Everything is in except for the face. I even managed to do the horns better this time. I always suck at horns. Every time I paint horns, I can't get that kind of striped look. That doesn't look too bad. Yeah, so fantastically detailed model. Crazily detailed, actually. Every time I go back, I see a detail I missed. So I painted the whole thing with like the 00 brush. That's how detailed it is, other than the big cape area. So fantastic model. We're going to finish off basing the paint, then we're going to go to shades. Ulrich has been washed, and he looks great. It's amazing the difference the wash makes. It looks so flat when it's based, and then just a wash alone just brings out all the detail, and then highlights obviously extra amount. But even just putting the wash in alone, like, just makes it that much more dynamic. It's pretty crazy. Washes are so good. Let's see if I can show you the back. I don't want to touch the cape because it's got drying shade on it. So I actually used Carroburg Crimson for the cape to kind of make it a deeper red. I might still put some Nuln Oil way down right into the deepest folds, just to really make it contrast. Otherwise, most of the model was Agrax Earthshade, so the fur and the skulls, the gold. I just did silver parts with Nuln Oil, and then Agrax again on the skull parts, and some Cassandora yellow on the badges, on the knee and the chest and the top badge there. Yeah, and then Nuln Oil, and then some Reichland Fresh Shade for the two tassels to make them a slightly different shade from the rest of the fur, and for the face obviously. So yeah, that looks good. Alright, Ulrich is done, other than his base. I haven't decided how to do all the Space Wolf bases yet, but here we are. I'm very happy with Ulrich, how he's turned out. It's a little bit too bright here, but yeah, super amazing model. And I spent a lot of time on this guy, and I even picked out things that I normally don't pick out, like the straps on the shaft of the hammer. Picked out all the fur individually instead of dry brushing. There was really 2 or 3 levels of edge highlights. Super happy with how he turned out. And this cape, I've spent the last hour just doing the cape, trying to make it a little bit darker on the inside of the cape, and then even try my hand at a bit of blending. Doesn't look too bad. I'm fairly happy with it. It's not as dramatic as I'd hoped, but I think it looks pretty good compared to a lot of my other robes and capes, like on my Dark Angels, which look pretty crappy. The effect looks decent, and a bit of edge highlight of the orange there really kind of brings it out. Makes it look really, makes it stand out, that edge highlight of orange. And then I'm really happy with my job on the fur. Looks really good. Yeah, I'm super happy with this, how I've done this model. It looks really cool. Probably the best single model I've ever painted. And pretty cool. I got to work on the blending and stuff when it comes to surfaces like this, but certainly a good start there. I don't know how to pick out this etching in the cloak. I'm just going to leave it because I suspect that if I tried to do it, I would ruin it. So if you have any comments below as to how I can paint these the swirly runes, pattern on the edges of the cloak, let me know, and I might entertain attempting it. But I'm fairly happy with how he is right now. Very cool model. I loved painting this guy. Work begins on Capital City Bloodbath prep, and really I don't have much to do. I modified my list a little bit to put Celestine in there after today's tournament, where Jason ran Celestine, and seemed like a great little 150 point addition to add some mobility to the army and some heavy hitting and a way of getting over to Linebreaker or other objectives, grabbing the relic, so actually I thought it was a great idea, so I'm going to add her into my army, see how it goes. So I did get my Celestine a long time ago and assembled it as standard and sprayed it white because I thought, well, it's easier to paint gold over white, but then most of it is gold. So I did as Duncan did and sprayed it again, Retributor gold. So it's all been sprayed gold, and then what he does instead of making these white is he uses Rakarth flesh and then works it back up to white with highlights, which actually works quite well. And Rakarth is a great base coat, so I don't have any concerns there. And then the other colors are red and black, so I don't think that'll be too bad. So I resprayed her gold, and we'll see how that's going to go. Now, the other thing is, for transport and play purposes, this bobblehead Celestine is just not going to cut it. I just don't like how that is. So what I'm going to do is leave it like this and just paint it. And then I'm going to snip these off halfway so she still has this sort of detail. And then I'm going to replace her. Replace it on one of these inceptor, I don't know, one of the new Primaris flight stands, which is basically the same height as you see here. It's the same height, so it's not modeling for advantage, it's modeling for stability. And I'll use the same base, so the base is the same size, and I'll have it, instead of attaching to the back of the cape, it'll go up kind of into the butt area. So it'll go up her butt and hold her in place like that. So it's going to be pretty cool, I think, hopefully. And it'll be a little bit more stable than these bobblehead scrolls that she's on. So we're going to get started on the Celestine here once this is dry. And yeah, I think that's the only thing I need to paint for Capital City Bloodbath. The rest of my army is pretty much ready to go. Alright, just washed the armor with Reikland Fleshshade, which is going to give it a nice burnished look on this gold. And armor will be done tomorrow after that all dries. So that's the first step on the Celestine. Alright, work in progress for Celestine. It's a little bit shiny. I don't know if it comes out well on camera, but a layer of Ulrich armor gold, then edge highlighting with Liberator gold, and then very fine highlights with Stormhost silver, which I really like on gold. Gives it a little bit more of an aged look and really catches those super fine highlights. So like right at the tip of the gorget there, just at the tip. I used it also to pick out these fleur-de-lis a little bit, make it stand out from the rest of the gold, right on the tips of the wings. So I think it looks cool. I'm going to move on to the next part, which according to Duncan is the black part. So the bodice and the sort of joins and stuff like that. And the hair. I don't know if I'm going to make Celestine dark haired or blonde haired. What do you think? I don't know. Or just golden haired like this. Alright, progress made on Celestine. First of all, I did the black bodice and the hair. Highlight with Dark Reaper. Fairly straightforward. Sorry, let me get this into focus for you. Then I did Rakarth flesh on the face. I want it kind of pale as opposed to more fleshy. And then we've been painting red. So painted the sash and Mephiston red with some Agrax in there for shade, which is just drying right now. What's interesting is that Mephiston red goes over gold really easily, just one layer, maybe a little bit, 1.5 layers, and actually the gold kind of gives it a richer appearance, whereas I usually find Mephiston red a little bit too bright. The gold kind of darkens it down and gives it a richer texture, which I quite like, so actually that's good. So we're just going to wait for all that to dry and then carry on and highlight the red parts and then move on. Alright, just finished this cloak here, and definitely I'm not very good at cloaks yet. It's really difficult, I find. I find cloaks the hardest thing, really. It's all the ups and downs, and Duncan makes it look a lot easier than it actually is to look really good and natural. Actually, it looks better looking through this video camera than it does in real life, but yeah. So even try some wet blending just to get the gradient a little bit better across there. The shadows just seem too dark to me, but you know. So anyway, so I think that red cloak is done in the little sash at the front there. Doesn't look too bad. It's not the most pro job, but I ain't pro, so there you go. Alright, we're going to go on now and do the wings. And after the wings are done, we'll be well on our way for sure. Alright, the wings and the inside of the robe have been base coated with Rakarth flesh. Took a couple of coats to cover all the gold, but that's because I thinned it down so I could get it nice and smooth. Very unstreaky, solid finish. Rakarth flesh is an awesome color, I love it. Covers very well, and it's probably the best way of painting white on top of another color is to paint a base of Rakarth flesh first, and then work your way back up by using Pallid Witch Flesh or Ulthuan Grey or something like that. Ulthuan Grey is very close to white, and then you can always add white on top of that. But I think if you're painting white over any other color, the best experience I've had is to start with Rakarth Flesh, which is a great base coat. Covered right over the gold here, no problems. And very easy to work with paint. A quality one, just spreads very easily, lasts a long time. And yeah, so looks great on the wings here. So we're going to work our way back up to gold, to white now. And the other thing is you don't have to shade it then, because the Rakarth serves as the shade for the white. I mean, you could if you want, you could wash this, but it kind of makes it a little bit too dark. So we're going to work this way back up with Pallid Witch Flesh and then White Scar on the edges. Alright, final progress for tonight. 2 coats of Pallid Witch Flesh necessary for a smooth white finish on the wings. Some watered down Nailac oxide into those recesses to give it some color there. I quite like how that looks. I guess you could use any color you want, but I used the same one that Duncan did. There we go, the wings on the back. Painted these purity seals. So the ultimate plan is to cut the purity seals off around here and put the other base on. So I didn't paint them all the way down, but the purity seals are painted and shaded with Agrax. Some silver details, the wires, these fleur-de-lis painted again with silver and washed with known oil, and those will be highlighted tomorrow. And the jewel on the shoulder there, I'm going to finish highlighting the hair tomorrow. Some Reikland into the face, ready for highlighting. And then silver and known oil onto the sword. And white, 2 layers of white, and then a wash of Carroburg Crimson on the roses. Still need to highlight the underside of the robe with White Scar, and I need to highlight all the wings with White Scar. Do that all together tomorrow. And then pop her on the base and it'll be done. Yeah. So, cool model. Not my favorite to paint, but cool model. Didn't take too long to do. A lot of little detail on her. Oh yeah, you might be asking what happened to the doves. I cut them off. You know, she's obviously a saint. She's Saint Celestine. It's obvious she got roses from her sword, and she got these big ass wings and a halo. I don't think I needed to paint and to model doves. I think it made the model look a little bit cluttered, so I actually cut the doves off. And I think she looks much cooler and meaner without these crazy doves flying around. What are doves doing in the 40th millennium? How are they going to survive in space? So anyway, so I cut the doves off because I like the model better without the doves. So there we go. Saint Celestine, almost done. All right, Celestine is done. Just finished off final highlights with the white and highlights on the hair. I put the little blue Gulliman glaze for the eyes. And just finish off the back of the scroll. And then what I did was I chopped the scrolls just there, just painted the tips there, and so she still has the scrolls, but then I have made this 40mm base with one of those new flying stands that you get with the Caradron Overlords or with the Inceptors. I had to shave it a little bit to form it into like a tip so that it would fit in between her butt and her cloak there, right into her butt basically. But it's perfect, and there she is on a much sturdier base, and she's almost exactly the same height as she was when she's standing on her scrolls, so there's no modeling for advantage or disadvantage here. So, and it's the same size base, so it's just a lot sturdier than the old Bubblehead Celestine. And there we go. So that's just waiting to set, and she'll be ready to go. And that's the last thing I needed to paint for my Capital City Bloodbath tournament list for singles. So next we're going to be dipping into my Gene Stealers, because I need to do that for doubles.